Have you ever felt like no one listens to you? Like your words just disappear into thin air? Maybe at school, at work, or even at home. You try to share your thoughts, but people talk over you or simply don't seem to care. If that sounds familiar, then this video is for you. Based on Steve Brown's book, How to Talk So People Will Listen, we'll follow the story of John, an ordinary American teenager who struggles with being heard. Through real-life experiences and lessons from the book, we'll see how he transforms from feeling invisible to becoming a confident communicator who captures people's attention. Stick around, because these lessons might just change the way you speak and the way people listen. Chapter 1. Why no one listens to John. John had always felt like his words didn't matter. At school, his classmates ignored his ideas. At home, his family barely acknowledged his suggestions. It was frustrating. Why did no one listen to him? One day in English class, the teacher asked a question about To Kill a Mockingbird. John had an interesting thought and eagerly raised his hand. This time, they'll hear me out, he thought. I think Atticus Finch. Before he could finish, another student interrupted, speaking louder, and the conversation moved on. John sat back, feeling invisible. Again. Later that evening, while scrolling through videos on communication skills, he came across a book recommendation, How to Talk So People Will Listen, by Steve Brown. Curious, he downloaded a sample and started reading. The first chapter hit him hard. People don't listen unless you make them want to. At first, John was annoyed. That's not fair, he thought. Why should I have to work so hard just to get people to listen? But as he kept reading, something clicked. Maybe it wasn't just about what he was saying. Maybe it was how he was saying it. The experiment. Speaking with confidence. The next day in history class, John decided to test this idea. Normally, when he spoke, he rushed his words, as if trying to get them out before someone interrupted. But today, he took a deep breath and slowed down. Martin Luther King Jr. was effective because he didn't just speak, he made people feel something. His voice was steady, his tone confident. To his surprise, people actually stopped and listened. Even his teacher leaned in. That's an interesting point, John. Can you elaborate? John's heart pounded. This was new. This was different. Trying it at home. That evening, John tested it again, this time with his family. Normally, when he wanted to do something fun, he just blurted out, "Let's go to the amusement park." His parents would barely look up from their phones. But tonight, he tried something different. Did you know the new roller coaster downtown has the longest drop in the country? Imagine how amazing that rush must feel. His dad looked up. That sounds fun. His mom nodded. We should go this weekend. John sat back, stunned. That worked? For so long, he had thought people ignored him out of rudeness. But now he realized he just hadn't been speaking in a way that made them want to listen. Excited, he flipped to the next chapter. He was just getting started. Key lessons from Chapter 1. 1. People don't listen unless you make them want to. It's not enough to have good ideas. You have to present them in a way that captures attention. 2. Confidence and clarity make words more powerful. When you speak with certainty, people take you seriously. 3. How you say something is just as important as what you say. The right tone, pacing, and framing can completely change how others respond. John had spent years feeling unheard, but now for the first time, he saw a different path forward, and this was just the beginning. John was starting to understand that people listened when he spoke with confidence. But there was still a problem. Sometimes, even when people heard him, they didn't seem to care. His words didn't stick. Chapter 2. Making people care about what you say. He realized this during student council elections. John wanted to run, but when he told his friends, their reactions were lukewarm. Cool, man, one of them said, barely looking up from his phone. You, student council? I guess. Another shrugged. John felt frustrated. Why don't they take me seriously? That night, he turned back to Steve Brown's book. People only listen when they feel something. Facts alone don't convince. Stories, emotions, and connection do. John thought about his campaign speech. He had planned to list things he wanted to change at school. Better vending machines, more student events, fixing the broken water fountains. But was that exciting? Did it make people feel anything? The power of emotion. The next day during lunch, he tested a new approach. Instead of saying, "I want better vending machines," he told a story. "Last week, I was starving after practice. I ran to the vending machine, put in my last dollar, and nothing came out. I walked into math class with an empty stomach, struggling to focus. I know I'm not the only one this has happened to. That's why I want to fix it." This time, his friends reacted differently. "Man, that's happened to me too. Yeah, those machines are so old." They were listening, and they cared. When speech day arrived, John didn't just list policies. He told stories, painting a picture of what could change. Instead of, "We need better school events," he said, "Imagine walking into the gym on a Friday night, the lights dim, music playing, students actually excited to be at a school event. That's the kind of school spirit I want to bring back." When he finished, the crowd actually clapped. For the first time, John felt like his words had impact. Key lessons from Chapter 2. 1. Facts don't convince people, stories and emotions do. 2. If you want people to care, make them feel something. 3. A speech or any message should paint a picture, not just list points. That night, as John checked the election results, he smiled. He had won. He flipped to the next chapter of the book, eager for the next lesson. Chapter 3, The Power of Listening. John was riding high on his student council win. People were finally listening to him. But he was about to learn another important lesson. Sometimes the best way to get people to listen to you is to listen to them first. It all started when he got into an argument with his best friend Ryan. It was a Saturday afternoon, and they were hanging out at the skate park. Ryan was complaining about how their history teacher, Mr. Lewis, always gave him bad grades on essays. "He's just unfair," Ryan muttered. "I swear he has something against me." John, feeling confident in his new communication skills, immediately jumped in. "Nah, man, you probably just need to work on your writing. Maybe you're not explaining your points well." Ryan's face changed. "Oh, so now you're saying I'm bad at writing? Thanks, dude." "No, I'm just saying—" "Forget it," Ryan snapped. "You always think you're right." John was stunned. "I was just trying to help." But instead of fixing the situation, he had made it worse. That night, frustrated, he flipped open Steve Brown's book. One sentence stopped him in his tracks. "Most people don't want solutions right away. They want to feel heard first." John realized what he had done wrong. He had immediately jumped in with advice instead of just listening. Listening, first away. The next day, he found Ryan at school. "Hey man, about yesterday. I think I messed up. I should have just listened instead of telling you what to do." Ryan sighed. "Yeah, dude, it just felt like you weren't even hearing me. Mr. Lewis keeps giving me bad grades even when I try. It's just frustrating." This time, John didn't jump in with advice. He just nodded. "That sucks, man. I get why you're upset." Ryan exhaled, like he had been holding in all that frustration. "Yeah, it's just annoying, you know? Like I actually worked hard on that last paper." Only after a minute of listening did John say, "Maybe you could ask him for feedback? Just to see what he thinks?" Ryan paused. "Yeah, maybe. That's actually not a bad idea." For the first time, John saw it. By listening first, he had actually helped more. Key lessons from Chapter 3. 1. Most people don't want advice right away. They want to feel heard first. 2. Listening builds trust. 3. Sometimes silence is more powerful than words. That day, John realized something. Being a great communicator wasn't just about talking, it was about listening too. As he flipped to the next chapter, he smiled. What else could he improve? Chapter 4. The right words at the right time. John was starting to get the hang of listening and making people feel heard, but there was still one problem. Sometimes, even when he had something important to say, the timing was all wrong. One afternoon, John was sitting with his mom in the kitchen. She had been having a tough day at work. Her team was behind on a big project and she was stressed. John could tell she needed some support, but he wasn't sure how to help. His mom sighed as she sorted through papers. "I don't know if I can do this anymore," she muttered, rubbing her temples. John hesitated. He wanted to say something encouraging, something that would make her feel better. But every time he opened his mouth, the words felt wrong. Finally, after a long pause, he blurted out, "Mom, maybe you should just ask for an extension. You can't keep working like this." She looked at him, startled, and then shook her head. "That's not going to fix anything, John." John felt deflated. Why didn't that work? I was just trying to help. That night, after reading more from Steve Brown's book, he found the answer. It's not just about what you say, it's about when you say it. John had been offering a solution before his mom had even expressed what she truly needed. Someone to listen, to empathize with her situation, to feel her pain. He had jumped too quickly to the fixing part. The right moment to speak. The next day when John came home from school, he found his mom sitting at the kitchen table again, looking exhausted. This time, John took a different approach. Instead of diving straight into a solution, he started with empathy. "Hey, I know you're having a rough time at work. Want to talk about it?" His mom looked up, surprised but grateful. "I don't know. Everything just feels like it's piling up. I'm trying to keep up, but I'm behind, and it's so much to manage." John nodded. "That sounds really tough. I get why you're frustrated. What do you think would help?" By starting with empathy and letting her speak, John had given her the space she needed to express herself. Once she had shared her feelings, she felt heard. That's when John suggested, "Maybe you could break the task down into smaller chunks, one thing at a time?" His mom's face softened. "That might actually work. I haven't been looking at it that way." John smiled, realizing that offering a solution was helpful, but only after the right moment had passed. Key lessons from Chapter 4. 1. Timing is just as important as the words you say. 2. Sometimes, just listening and offering empathy first is the right approach. 3. Wait for the right moment before offering solutions. John was learning that communication was more than just talking. It was about knowing when to speak, when to listen, and how to offer the right words at the right time. Excited to learn more, he turned to the next chapter. Chapter 5. The Secret to Gaining Respect. John had learned a lot about talking, listening, and timing his words. But there was still something missing. He wanted people to respect what he had to say, not just hear it. This lesson hit him hard one afternoon during a group project in his history class. Struggling to be taken seriously, John's group had to prepare a presentation on the civil rights movement. He had done his research and had great ideas, but every time he spoke up, his classmates either ignored him or talked over him. "We should start with a powerful quote," John suggested. No one responded. "Guys, if we split the work evenly, we won't be scrambling at the last minute." Someone else jumped in with a different plan, and the group followed them instead. John sat back frustrated. Why does no one listen to me? That night, he turned back to Steve Brown's book. One line stood out. If you want respect, you have to be consistent. Show up prepared, follow through on your words, and prove you're worth listening to. John realized something. He had been trying to say the right things, but he hadn't been showing that he was someone to be respected. Earning respect through action. The next day, John changed his approach. Instead of just throwing out ideas, he came prepared. Before the group even met, he gathered strong historical quotes, organized the research into sections, and even created a rough outline for the slides. When the group sat down, John didn't just suggest we should start with a strong quote. Instead, he pulled out a piece of paper and said, "I found this powerful quote from Martin Luther King Jr. that would be a perfect opening. It sets the stage for our entire presentation. Here, take a look." This time, people listened. "That actually works," one classmate said. "Yeah, that's a great way to start," another agreed. For the first time, John wasn't just talking, he was leading. Respect is earned, not given. By the end of the project, John's group started looking to him whenever they needed direction, not because he demanded it, but because he proved he was worth listening to. That day, he realized something powerful. Respect isn't something you can force. It's something you earn by being prepared, following through and proving that your words carry weight. Key lessons from Chapter 5. 1. Respect comes from action, not just words. 2. Being prepared makes people take you seriously. 3. If you follow through on what you say, others will trust and respect you. As John flipped to the next chapter, he felt different. He wasn't just learning how to talk, he was learning how to lead. Chapter 1. Chapter 6. How to handle criticism without losing confidence. John was starting to feel more confident. People were finally listening to him, and he was earning their respect. But then something happened that shook him. He got criticized. A tough lesson in art class. It started in his art class. John had been working on a painting for weeks. He wasn't an amazing artist, but he had put in real effort. When the teacher announced that everyone would present their work for feedback, John felt nervous but excited. When it was his turn, he stood in front of the class and explained his painting, a city skyline at sunset. He was proud of how he had blended the colors. Then came the feedback. "The colors are nice, but the perspective is kind of off," one student said. "Yeah, the buildings look a little uneven," another added. John felt his stomach sink. His teacher spoke next. "John, I can see the effort, but you need to work on depth and proportion. Try using guidelines next time." John nodded, forcing a smile, but inside he was crushed. Why did I even try? Maybe I'm just bad at this. That night, frustrated, he opened Steve Brown's book. One section stood out. "Criticism can either break you or make you better. The choice is yours." John realized he had two options. He could take criticism personally and shut down, or he could use it to improve. There were one he learned. Turning criticism into growth. The next day, instead of avoiding art class, John asked his teacher for advice. "You said my perspective was off. How can I fix it?" His teacher smiled. "That's the right attitude. Try sketching a grid first. It'll help you get the angles right." John took the advice and started practicing. He watched tutorials, worked on new sketches, and slowly saw improvement. A week later, his teacher noticed, "John, this is a huge improvement. See what happens when you take feedback and apply it?" For the first time, John saw criticism differently, not as something to fear, but as something that could help him grow. Key lessons from Chapter 6. 1. Criticism is not an attack, it's a chance to improve. 2. Instead of reacting emotionally, ask for clarification and advice. 3. The best way to handle criticism is to use it to get better. As John walked out of class, he realized that the people who grow the most are the ones who can handle feedback without losing confidence. With a new mindset, he was ready to take on the next challenge. Chapter 7. The power of asking the right questions. John had come a long way. He had learned how to listen, how to time his words, how to gain respect, and even how to handle criticism. But there was something else he noticed. The people who communicated best weren't just good speakers. They were great at asking questions. This lesson hit him one evening while sitting in the living room with his Uncle Mark. A conversation that changed everything. Uncle Mark was a business consultant. He was one of those people who could talk to anyone and make them feel important. That night, as they sat watching a basketball game, John asked, "Uncle Mark, how do you always know the right thing to say?" His uncle chuckled. "John, it's not about knowing the right thing to say. It's about knowing the right thing to ask." John frowned. "What does that mean?" Sensing his confusion, Uncle Mark leaned forward. "Think about this. When someone asks you, 'How was your day?' what do you usually say?" I just say good or fine, I guess," John replied. "Exactly," Uncle Mark said. "Now, what if someone asked, 'What was the best part of your day?' Or, 'Did anything surprise you today?'" John thought for a moment. Those questions make you think more. That's when it clicked. Better questions lead to better conversations. putting it to the test. The next day, John decided to try it out. At lunch, his friend Jake was sitting quietly, scrolling through his phone. Normally, John would just say, "What's up?" and get a short answer like, "Nothing much." But this time he asked, "Hey, Jake, what's the funniest thing that happened today?" Jake looked up, thought for a second, then laughed. "Oh man, in math class, our teacher knocked over her coffee, and instead of getting mad, she just took a sip and said, 'Still good.'" John laughed, and just like that, a real conversation started. He tried it at home too. When his mom got back from work, instead of just asking, "How was your day?" he asked, "What was the hardest part of your day today?" She paused, then said, "Actually, I had to present a project to my boss, and I was super nervous. But it went well." John realized that when you ask better questions, you get deeper, more meaningful answers. Key lessons from Chapter 7. 1. Asking good questions makes people open up and connect with you. 2. Avoid generic questions. Ask something that makes people think. 3. People love talking about themselves. Give them the chance with the right questions. That night, John wrote in his journal, "The best way to be a great conversationalist is not to talk more, but to ask better questions." Excited to try this new skill in more situations, he turned to the next chapter. Chapter 8, The Hidden Power of Silence. John was getting better at talking to people. He had learned how to listen, how to ask good questions, and how to handle criticism. But there was one thing he hadn't realized yet. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. The moment John talked too much. It happened during a debate in his English class. The topic was social media, good or bad. John had prepared well and had solid arguments, but as soon as the debate started, he made a mistake. He wouldn't stop talking. Social media connects people, helps businesses grow, and spreads important news. If we didn't have it, imagine how out of touch we'd be, he argued passionately. Before his opponent could even respond, John jumped in again. And another thing, people say social media is distracting, but that depends on how you use it. You can't blame the tool. His classmates started shifting in their seats. His opponent barely got a word in. After class, his teacher pulled him aside. "John, you had great points, but let me ask you something. Do you think your classmates really heard you?" John hesitated. He had talked so much, but did anyone actually listen? Sometimes, his teacher continued, the most persuasive thing you can do is say your piece, then stop. Let people think. Let silence do its job. The power of silence in real life. That lesson stuck with John. A few days later, he got the perfect chance to test it. His younger sister, Emily, had been upset about something all afternoon. Normally, John would try to cheer her up with jokes or tell her what to do. But this time, he decided to stay quiet and just listen. "Emily, what's wrong?" he asked. She sighed. "Nothing." Normally, John would rush in. "Come on, you can tell me." But instead, he waited. After a few moments of silence, Emily finally spoke. "It's just, my friend didn't invite me to her party, and I thought we were close." John realized that if he had talked too soon, he might never have heard what was really bothering her. He nodded. "That sucks. You really thought she'd invite you?" Emily sighed again. "Yeah, maybe I should just stop being friends with her." John stayed quiet for a moment, letting her think. Then Emily spoke again. "But maybe I should ask her about it first. Maybe there's a reason." John smiled. Silence had given her space to figure things out. On her own. Key lessons from Chapter 8. 1. Talking too much can make people tune you out. 2. Silence gives others time to think and respond. 3. Sometimes the best way to support someone is to simply listen. That night, as John lay in bed, he thought about how much he had changed. A few months ago, he thought being a great communicator meant always having something to say. Now he realized, sometimes the best thing to say is nothing at all. Chapter 9, How to Make People Feel Important. John had been learning so much about communication, listening, asking good questions, and even using silence wisely. But there was one thing he hadn't fully grasped yet. People don't just want to be heard, they want to feel valued. This lesson hit him unexpectedly at a grocery store. The cashier no one noticed. John was out with his mom, helping her with the weekly shopping. As they waited in line to check out, he noticed the cashier, an older man with tired eyes, scanning items without much enthusiasm. John watched as customer after customer barely acknowledged him. No one even looked up from their phones. When it was their turn, John did something different. "Hey, how's your day going?" he asked. The cashier looked up, surprised. It's okay, I guess. Just a long shift." John nodded. "I bet. It must be exhausting standing here all day." The man sighed but smiled a little. "Yeah, but it pays the bills." John thought for a moment. "Well, I bet a lot of people appreciate what you do, even if they don't say it." For the first time, the cashier's whole expression changed. He smiled, a real smile. "Thanks, kid. That means a lot." John realized something powerful. A few words can make someone feel seen and appreciated. Making his friends feel important. After that experience, John started paying attention. He noticed that in conversations, people often just waited for their turn to speak instead of making the other person feel important. He decided to change that. The next day at school, he saw his friend Alex struggling with his sketchbook. "Whoa, that looks amazing," John said, looking at the drawing. Alex sighed. "Hey, it's not that great. I messed up the shading." John shook his head. "Dude, are you kidding? Your art is insane. I wish I could draw like that." Alex smiled. "Really? Thanks, man." John realized something. People are their own worst critics. Sometimes they just need someone to remind them of their worth. Key lessons from Chapter 9. 1. People don't just want to be heard, they want to feel valued. 2. Small compliments and genuine appreciation can make a huge impact. 3. Making others feel important doesn't cost anything, but it changes everything. That night, John wrote in his journal, "Everyone wants to feel like they matter. A few words can make all the difference." Excited to test this new skill in more situations, he turned to the next chapter. Chapter 10, The Secret to Being Truly Heard. John had come a long way. He had learned how to listen, how to ask better questions, how to handle criticism, how to use silence, and how to make people feel important. But there was one final lesson that tied everything together. If you want people to listen to you, you have to listen to them first. Chapter 10. The class presentation that almost went wrong. It was the final week of school, and John had a big presentation in history class. He had spent hours preparing, making sure his slides were perfect. He wanted to impress everyone. The day of the presentation, he stood up in front of the class and started speaking. The civil rights movement was one of the most important. A loud thud came from the back of the room. Someone had dropped their notebook. A few students snickered. John's stomach tightened. No one was really listening. He tried to push through, but he could see it. People were distracted, whispering, barely paying attention. Then he remembered something from the book. If you want people to listen, make them feel involved. So instead of continuing with his speech, he stopped and asked, "Quick question. Does anyone here know someone who has stood up for what they believe in, even when it was hard?" The class went silent for a second. Then Sarah raised her hand. "My mom fought for equal pay at her job," she said. "That's amazing. How did that go?" John asked. "It was tough, but she didn't back down, and eventually they gave her a raise." Now the whole class was paying attention. John smiled. That's exactly what the civil rights movement was about. People standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. He continued his presentation. But this time, people were engaged. They listened because he made it about them. The final lesson: communication is about connection. That day, John realized something life-changing. Great communication isn't about fancy words or talking the most. It's about making others feel heard, understood, and valued. Looking back, he could see how every lesson built on the last. 1. Listening made people trust him. 2. Asking great questions made conversations deeper. 3. Respecting timing helped him say the right thing at the right moment. 4. Handling criticism gave him confidence. 5. Using silence helped others open up. 6. Making people feel important strengthened relationships. 7. Involving others in conversations made them actually listen. John wasn't just a better speaker now. He was a better friend, son, teammate, and person. What you can take from this book. This book, How to Talk So People Will Listen, by Steve Brown, isn't just about speaking, it's about connecting. If you want people to listen to you, listen first, ask better questions, make people feel important, know when to speak and when to be silent, show people that their voice matters. These lessons aren't just for speeches or debates, they're for our everyday life. Whether you're talking to your friends, your boss, or your family, communication can change everything. Final message. If you've enjoyed this breakdown of how to talk so people will listen, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. This video, we bring you the best insights from life-changing books, helping you improve your communication, confidence, and relationships. And remember, the way you speak can change the way people see you, so speak wisely, listen deeply, and make every conversation count. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next book.